We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS Podcast friends. I have Ritesh, the CTO of Moonlighting, and he's been there for about 4 years ago when they founded this company. Recently moved over to the EOS.io blockchain with funding from one of the EOS VCs. This is a really exciting project. We're going to talk about all about what it is, how they got here, and what it means for EOS. So, Ritesh, welcome to the show, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Definitely. First of all, great to be here, Brandon. Thank you for inviting us over the show. Very excited to talk about Moonlighting and EOS with the audience here. So my name is Ritesh Johar, as Brandon mentioned, CTO and co-founder of Moonlighting. We started building Moonlighting back in 2014. So 5 years ago. The idea was being discussed even before that. So I'm with Moonlighting for last 4.5-5 years, where first 1 year was moonlighting myself and building this project. And the project overall has come a long way, and we are very excited where it is today, and we are very excited for the future of it.
Yeah, some of the best projects end up being built as a pain point that when someone's scratching their own itch and then they build it out for everyone else to use. It's cool to hear that you were actually moonlighting yourself for a bit and built it like that. So, yeah. So what do you think is the most interesting thing going on in EOS right now, Ritesh?
A lot.
Yeah.
EOS community, I think the EOS overall ecosystem is growing and improving, evolving so fast. Sometimes it's so hard to keep track of all the new stuff which is happening. I think a lot of that comes because of the great EOS community which EOS has built around it. I think it starts with the great blog producers. The candidates are the ones which are active right now. I think they are participating and doing a lot of work in EOS. And Dan, definitely, I think everybody knows Dan and everybody follows him. I think he has great ideas, and I see on the community him throwing ideas, and a lot of time community picks it up and run with it and make something great out of it. So recently, means again, as a company which is already in production for 4 years, right, having 700,000 plus users, one thing which definitely stays on top of our mind is scalability and usability of any product, any technology we use. These new products of which can enhance even the scalability further for EOS, like Rex and liquid apps. So those are the most exciting aspects which we are looking at, and we are actually looking at both of those along with some other products which are built on top of EOS-IO protocol to use with our architecture.
Yeah, that scalability is cool. We seemed like we were having some possible scalability issues in the future, and then just in time Rex popped up, Liquid App, dApps popped up, and then it's that's not such an issue again right now. So hopefully you guys can stay ahead of it there. What kind of transaction speed is Moonlighting requiring now and possibly requiring in the future?
That is a very good question. So if you think about a centralized system, we control most of it in a centralized environment. Everything is real time. We get around, I would say, 60,000-70,000 users on our platform every day. And when they are transacting, and they're not only transacting money and transactions like invoices or proposals, they are transacting data. When they're interacting with each other. So you can imagine the number of likes, number of comments, bookmarks, feed scrolls, views of any jobs, then applying for the jobs, and then taking the interactions further from there. There are thousands. If I look at my API calls, I usually run up to like maybe 2 million calls a day on a lower day. So if we start to look at now blockchain, right, suddenly saying that I'm going to move everything there, I think scalability immediately comes to our mind, is like, are we ready to do that? So with these, as I said, right, with Rex coming on and with liquid apps, I think there is a lot of potential for systems like us to move our transactions and user faster onto the chain rather than a slow roll. So we are still going to take it, I would say, cautiously, where we are going to test a few thousand, we plan to start with 10,000 users on the main chain, and then rest on maybe SV accounts and using VRAM, and then eventually move on to hundreds of thousands, and eventually, hopefully, in next year or so, we are planning to have millions. So all goes well, all that will happen, but we will scale as we see as we gain the confidence in the transaction per second of the protocol itself.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll dig a little bit further into that scaling here, but let's tell people actually what Moonlighting is, because you guys are trying to basically disrupt $1 trillion freelance job market, and so that's a big idea. So tell people, just briefly what Moonlighting is.
Oh, definitely. So Moonlighting is a platform. One of the components of that platform is, first of all, it's a platform to solve many problems for freelance economy. It's basically where we are trying to reinvent freelance economy, whether it is marketplace, whether it is how people transact and everything. So one of the major aspects which people are most familiar about for Moonlighting is the marketplace aspect of it, where service providers, the freelancers and the employers come onto the platform, they create their accounts, they create their profiles, they post the jobs from the employer side and the services from the service provider / freelancer side, and they find each other there. So it's open marketplace. One thing which we have done from the beginning is we never stood in between two people connecting with each other. Like, we are not the middleman. I'm giving you a platform where you both come in and put your shingles out and say, this is what I do, or this is what I need, and connect with each other. Now, there is, along with the marketplace, we also have built to so that our freelancers can have all the tools they need to conduct the business. We have built a tool set which is invoices and proposals and payments all within our platform, along with the instant messaging being part of it, so that we recommend our users to stay within the ecosystem when they're interacting, at least initially, because that way there is a trace of what they have been talking to the users on the platform, rather than talking over the phone and somebody, giving the information they don't stand behind later. And also use our tools like proposals to kind of write a contract of work, saying this is what we agreed upon, and then use our tools to get the payments done, because we'll then make sure we have integration with the right payment gateways and the fraud engines to check and make sure that things are not going to go like, people are not going to deceive each other, trick each other. So as you mentioned, we started back in 2015, and 2014 is our first launch, October 2014 beta launch. And then we have grown to about 725,000 users now. And 80% of our users are freelancers. 75% maybe on a better day, and then there is a huge imbalance, as you can see, right? There is 20% demand, 80% people want it, and that is the case with any freelance marketplace you pick up. So that is the reason, one of our vision of making it open, making it as easy as possible for people to connect with each other, and not standing in the way of their interaction, is to help people find more jobs and make more money and create more business for themselves using this platform.
So with the freelance marketplace, you're saying one of the hurdles is that there's generally more people offering to work than there is demand for the labor?
Always.
Okay.
And that's something which you will see on any, even if it is not freelance, it's a staffing company, you will see the same thing. Yeah. So it's in the whole employment landscape, especially in the freelancing economy, there is like Upwork, taking an example of that. If you see, maybe there are 2 to 5% of the total users who find jobs on Upwork, and other 98% to 95% are waiting.
Okay.
There is not enough demand on any one platform to really provide jobs for all the freelancers who are interested. But there is, if we all, again, we'll get into the mission and vision of Moonlighting, is to creating this freelance community. And that is how we think we can solve that problem, where everybody should not be in their walled garden of saying, oh, you are here and I'm not going to share or let you go outside. Whereas we want to create a ecosystem for freelancing itself, which is where all these players like us can come in and provide this demand which is needed by these freelancers, and help them find more jobs and let them go out, let them find elsewhere, partner with every other similar platform, rather than saying, I think the days where the business models of saying that, oh, I want to do it for my business, and you will see moving from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, a lot of those disappeared. Similarly, from Web 2.0 to 3.0 now, you see a lot of them struggling, and we need to get into these decentralized communities. We need to give control more to the people who are participating and running those communities, who are the main participants in there, rather than just set of people sitting in boardrooms and deciding on the future of a full marketplace.
So you're saying that you Moonlighting, you don't stand in between or stand in the way of the users and the providers. What can you explain a little bit more what that means?
Yeah. So let's say if you are, I don't know if you've used many freelancing tools, right?
Yeah, I've used Upwork before, Fiverr.
Very good. So there is usually a job or project posted, and people bid. And then there is a certain amount of people who can bid. This is controlled by the algorithms written by the platform itself. So even if I have a service which can fit great with the project which is posted, I might not get a chance to be able to even part of my bidding. Might not be able to put my proposal out there. So same thing if you see with if you come down to the other side, where it's like home services or Thumbtack or Home Advisor, there is people are given based on those companies' algorithm, platforms' algorithm, saying, I post a job. These are the 3 people who you should hire one of these. Right. And then there are many other people who could have done the job better, but it's not necessarily that these 3 people will do the best job. These are the 3 people this platform wants to provide some, kind of traction right now. And that is, there are many criteria how an algorithm defines that. So what we have done is, it is a marketplace where if let's say I come and create a job of a mobile developer, anybody who is out there is come in and who has access to the platform and has created the profile to the point where we think it is complete enough to be able to contact the employer. They can come in and contact that employer right away. They don't need to go through Moonlighting, and Moonlighting doesn't need to stand in the way saying, oh, look at Brandon or look at somebody else. Right. And now it is between the employer and the candidate, like any other process, their interaction. They can figure out whether they want to work together from there or not. But there is this opportunity which is presented to openly on the marketplace, rather than we controlling who gets it.
Okay, that makes sense. So how is there a reputation system or anything like that, or is there a reputation system?
Definitely. So one thing which we again we believe in is like to scale any marketplace to the point where it is useful to the full economy, to to the community. Curation is a big hurdle in that. So when you look at some of the marketplaces or some of the new platforms who are curating each and every user coming in, it takes a lot of cost. It takes a lot of effort. to be able to do that. Now, if a platform is going to incur that cost to do that, guess who is going to pay for it eventually, right? Somebody has to. So that is why we suddenly see 20%, 25% cuts of the paychecks. Like, oh, I created this great project. First of all, I had to bid against certain other number of other people, and I have to bid low enough and with enough quality that I get this project. And once I get it, now I have to give my 20% of my paycheck to somebody, because they let me participate in this marketplace. So that we don't want that. We don't want one thing which we always wanted to make sure when we are making any decision in Moonlighting is we want freelancers to keep their paycheck and not take that cut. Now, when it comes to maybe payments, and we have to pay Visa 3%, 2.9% plus 30 cents. Now that's something which we might we say, okay, you take that cost if you want to use that feature. But other than that, we don't want to keep your paycheck. Now, to keep those costs low, we do not curate our users. Now, we rely on social correction, social curation process. Now, with that said, what that means is like when you create your profile, we encourage you strongly to add your LinkedIn and your Facebook and your Twitter and your Instagram and all your social verifications to so that people know and they can look at your profile elsewhere as well outside the platform. And second is, once you complete your job or complete any interaction with the client or the other way, we have two-way rating system. So please encourage the other side to provide you a rating and a recommendation, or as an employer, if I'm not happy with some service provider, I'm encouraged to give my feedback and rate that person. So there is this whole reputation management which happens, which user builds based on their activity, and that helps them stand out from others, right?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. So there is a cost to the curation, like you're saying, and that cost basically comes out of the service or the people who are doing the work. It comes out of their paycheck. So eliminating that, giving more of a free marketplace is cool. It makes me think of kind of an Airbnb model where you see, I don't know how much they curate, but people connect their social profiles and they have this social validity where people can verify who they are, and you can go see their Facebook account and things like that. So you feel comfortable staying at their home. It makes sense to do something more of an open marketplace, less curated with work too. So that's a really cool idea.
Yeah. So we one thing again, I don't want to go into blockchain, wait for the right question to do that, but I think there is a right balance which we have to strike between the curation and verification of profiles and the reputation management which is done on the platform itself. And we have to definitely think how can we make these sources of data more credible, right? It's like reputation is also like Amazon does not have this problem anymore, but when it started, it had a lot of problem where people were getting reviews, paid reviews, right? There were like companies who were literally saying, "Oh, give me $1,000 and I will create so many reviews for you." Facebook had similar thing for companies, so they had to create algorithms and they had to go and make sure they took care of that to some degree. But with new marketplaces also, we have to make sure that even when we are building these reputation engines, we have to make sure the sources are credible, and there are ways to do it in decentralized environment, and that is what we are shooting for and going for. But there is a lot more work. It's just reputation is not just a small thing to manage, because that kind of drives the whole business to a freelancer, or take away all the business from a freelancer that can make or destroy.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation going around in the blockchain community about this unique identity and the ability to take, let's say all of your different social media sites, plus maybe a government ID if people want to provide that, plus whatever online history you have, plus your network of connections that all come together and can verify you as a unique individual. And so once we have this unique identity, that starts to, I think that's part of what you're saying, is that starts to open the door that, okay, if your identity is actually verified, now we can, now we can trust these social scores more. It's not just a bunch of fake votes or things like that coming in. So,
Totally.
yeah.
So yeah, you have to find the right sources, and you have to find the right ways to find those sources, and give them easy enough tools to be able to connect. So the problem is sometimes there are I have maybe to prove my reputation, I know people who can help me do that, but is there an easy way in a platform for me to bring those people in and able to prove that? So I think that is this unique identity thing. It's blockchain, I'm hoping, will find this solution which is more decentralized, right? Rather than me only depending upon saying, oh, you have a government issued ID. Okay, doesn't prove, in my opinion, okay, that proves I'm Ritesh Jor, but doesn't prove anything else, right? And then, okay, you can get your background check done, right? Like, okay, there is a criminal background check, there is a national background check, there is a local background check. I can go through all of those. Now that proves some things for me, right? And saying, okay, so this guy does not have a tendency to be a criminal. He has not done these bad things. And okay, you can trust him, at least at this point. But still doesn't tell you whether I'm going to do a good job or not, right? You're going to hire me for a skill set. Now, whether it is my education qualification, which can provide you that confirmation saying, okay, he has masters in computer science, okay, he must know how to code. And then my work history, and okay, he has worked on these big companies or these number of companies at these positions, that verification will help you. And more, what will help you on any platform, or at least the type of work, is if I can give you contextual recommendation, contextual reputation, saying, this guy is great, his reputation is 5, but his reputation in this particular skill set is 4.3. Whereas on the other side, he's a rock star, right? So those, I think there is this thing which we are trying to build in a decentralized manner, is not only the profiled reputation, but also profiles reputation in a context. And that means that you have to involve the right sources of data to build that.
And how do you find those sources of data, or what's the, what's the plan for Moonlighting as far as your approach to that?
That is a very good question. So it's a big problem to solve. Okay, there is no way I'm going to pretend that I have solved it already. So I'll tell you our way to do it is, there is, as I said, right, the pieces which I can verify with the credible sources like your education, your work history. I'm going to do that. So we are creating some partnerships which are going to help us do those verifications for users. Now there is other side is the freelance, like our marketplace. When I have joined Moonlighting marketplace, I have done certain kind of skill set, and I have done certain jobs, and there is a reputation I have built there. Now there are other marketplaces, similar marketplaces, where you would have done similar kind of work. So what we want to create is oracle of work profiles. It's not just this work profile is not something which will be used only by Moonlighting. I want to create this oracle so that it can be used across the ecosystem of all freelance platforms. Now, I can understand there will be freelance platform which will not be ready to participate in that ecosystem initially, but there are many forward-looking platforms like us who understand the benefit of a community and benefit of building something in a decentralized manner to give it more credibility and having that trust, creating this trust in the data. So we are going to partner with a lot of companies, which are either, some of them would be staffing solution companies who have employment data and good history on some people, and then some platforms which are, maybe a platform who is just doing one kind of job, like they are just dog walkers or dog sitters, right? There's a platform who is providing, I don't know if you, we just declared that we are partnering with another EOS IO based company called Hire Vibes. They share the same vision for freelancers as we do, and we discussed and we talked to them at length and found that there are so many people like us who want to solve this problem. So I think this problem will be solved by all of us getting together and all of us working to create these sources of data and bring them to one place and bring them to a place. Again, when I say one place, bring them to a place which is which is together to make a worker's profile, but in a decentralized and distributed manner. So that is our path we are going to take to create this valuable profile.
So, the goal is for basically people to be able to port their Moonlighting profile to any other platform that's going to accept that. So are you going to have two different kind of parts of the company here, like a Moonlighting, just the profile that can be ported around, and the Moonlighting platform for jobs? Are you going to focus more on one, or what's that?
No, that is a discussion we have very often here. This is how we see it. From the day one, when we started building Moonlighting, we never said that we are going to be a freelance marketplace app. Okay. We always built it as saying, thinking in the co-founders mission is that we are building a platform which is going to help gig economy. We are creating this platform for gig economy. Marketplace is one component of it. Now, marketplace is, okay, this is going to provide you a place to interact with each other, find each other. But we are also we built the tools you need to perform interactions and transactions within a marketplace. We are going to create this profile management system, which will become this oracle of worker profiles, which will also be used. So Moonlighting as a platform is the company anyway. Marketplace is just one aspect of giving it out to the users to start with. Right? Okay. This is how this is your entry point into this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. But doesn't mean this ecosystem stops here. Now, this is where the more value you will actually get out of the tool set, because a lot of people use so many tools and their business is segregated. It's hard to manage your business when you're busy developing and busy doing things, right? The organization, you end up hiring somebody to do that. Whereas if you have the right tools, you can manage all that very easily within this platform. So, and this will give you a place where now you can build your profile, you can bring your profile in with the right verifications, and you can also build the activity here, and we will let you port it. We are not going to keep it and say that, because this data, if you think about this data belongs to the users, not us. And so rightfully so, they should have access to it wherever they want. It should not be me controlling or Moonlighting controlling it, saying, if you get out of Moonlighting, this whole profile and reputation you build stays with us. No.
Yeah, and the gig economy is so fragmented that you picture someone who maybe has been walking dogs, but they also paint houses. And if they're using Moonlighting, then they've built this reputation as, being responsible with their work and doing a good job. And then they also paint houses, but they, so then they can port their profile over to a different site and kind of keep their reputation with them. That moving reputation helps, and that helps on the people purchasing the service end too, because you're getting more data on this person's, ability to perform. So, and I like the idea of people being able to control their own profile. So you host I guess this is still a little bit hypothetical, but you're going to be hosting the profile for people. They're going to have access to it. Do you have access to a giant? Oh, do you still hear me there?
Brandon, did I lose you?
Mark this spot by taking my hat off. That's how I mark spots now. So you're housing this data basically of these people's profiles. How's that housed? Are you using the blockchain for that, or how are you storing that information?
Yeah. So right now, all this data sits in our centralized databases. It doesn't sit on blockchain, right? So we use some NoSQL databases. We have data warehousing implementation for where we are, putting all this activity information, events information for creating a profile, activity-based profile on freelancers, and then all this data which belongs to a user's profile, whether it is static or dynamic, sits in our centralized databases right now in a very regular data structure, right? And our platform serve this data out to public through our apps. You can download Moonlighting app on Android and iOS and on moonlighting.com. This data is also syndicated out to almost 100 news media websites, which is very location based, saying that if, let's say, if you go to miamiherald.com, you will see service providers from Moonlighting showing up there from that region. So this platform, which is a centralized platform now, is hosting data to all these places, right? Now, suddenly I'm talking about saying I want to partner with many other freelance platforms where I'm going to share this data, or let users, I should say, choose to share the data, choose to let me share the data with those freelance platforms, or themselves take and port data. So as soon as I start sharing this data and creating more integrations, suddenly we felt the need of decentralization. That is when we started back in 2017. Is like this: we have this great vision, but we need to create more of a decentralized system rather than a centralized system, which we have right now. So we're going to put this data on blockchain. Now, the storage is, we have come a long way from where we were in 2017, 2016, right? But I think we're still not there to be able to store all data. And I'm a very practical user of blockchain. I'm not like a purist who like, oh, everything goes blockchain now. No. So what makes sense to go on the blockchain is selected by us, by the technical team, and then we will port only that subset of data which will go to the chain, and rest of the data will still be off chain. Now, even the subset of data which will go on the chain will not go to the chain in plain text. Those are the hashes of the claims which are associated with a profile will be created on the chain. And now people will still have to use Moonlighting system to get access to the data, right? Because the data sits off chain, but the validity and the audit trail of that data sits on blockchain. So that's how we are doing it in MVP and phase 1.
Okay, so what you're putting on chain is a hash of the validity and the authenticity of the data, basically.
Exactly.
And then,
so we call them, and technically we call them claims. Like, so every profile has a pillar called identity. So, this is user's profile, and there is a unique identity associated with this profile. And then all these static and dynamic attributes become claims on this profile. And these claims can be validated by, even if we can share them through our centralized system, but can be validated by anybody who is using those claims on the chain, because their hashes need to match.
And down the road, how do you see that? Of course, like, you have to take it step by step, because with blockchain right now, I talk about this, like, this is the year of UX. People need to now figure out how to use blockchain without people knowing they're using it, and without it getting in the way and annoying users, because that's, up till now it's been like, if you want to use blockchain, it's going to be a total pain. So yeah, you got to take these baby steps so it doesn't get in people's way, or else they're just not going to use it. So how do you see that evolving? And down the road, if the UX is possible, what would you or will you store on blockchain, or how will you utilize blockchain as it develops?
Yeah, so we are already, like, again, since I wrote the white paper back in, like, I think 2018 some point, things have evolved since then, with VRAM and V accounts. Like, things have become easy for us to be able to manage more data on the chain. So that progress, which we have already seen since the launch of EOS in June last year, that's incredible, right? There's a tremendous progress, and I'm very cautiously optimistic that this is going to go even further. It's going to get better, that we are going to reach a point of scalability. We are going to reach a point of transaction processing and cost, where we will be able to use this with the real systems, real world systems. Most of right now, if you see a lot of blockchain dApps or gambling dApps or games and all that, those are the great use cases. But when you come to the real data, the data which is outside gaming, the usability is not as much. So we are taking baby steps by not moving everybody to the blockchain day one. We are going to find our most engaged and most the profiles which have the most value, business value. It will go onto the chain as phase one, and then eventually it will be hundreds of thousands of profiles like that. And a lot of those profiles doesn't need to have a main chain account, right? They doesn't mean that every user needs account of their own to start with, because one of the biggest problems user of platforms like us have, they don't understand blockchain. As soon as you ask them to start creating a blockchain account and managing the keys, trust me, that doesn't work. So we are going to do a lot of that for them initially, and do the data transaction signing and data propagation on their behalf. Our hope and our path would be to encourage our users and educate them more and more as they progress within the platform. As they keep using our platform, I'm going to keep educating you. And there will be a point when there will be enough educated user who will like to now get involved to the level 2 and say that, you know what, I want to take care of my account. I want to hold the keys to my account. So, and we will do that. We are already architecting our system in a way where we will, it will be very easy for us to move to level 2. And then eventually, hopefully, when blockchain is mainstream and it is it's a household thing that everybody uses blockchain the way they use internet today. Nobody is struggling with that. Like at least 90% hopefully are not struggling with that. So hopefully people won't struggle with that, and eventually we'll move to a point where people can manage their accounts themselves and manage their data and take control of it more and more. And our technology, I have no doubt, will improve to facilitate that. Like, it's not that necessarily that, okay, there is only learning curve on the user side. I think there is a lot of evolution curve on the technology side. So those both going together, I think we'll reach a point where this will become a non-issue in few years.
And when let's go into the future and that becomes a non-issue, people are using blockchain like they are the internet. What's the difference? What's the benefit of having blockchain connected to Moonlighting at that point? What do people get from it?
Oh, huge. I think it's even if you are using the blockchain, again, the source of your data still has a lot of value. So whether that source of data of adding value to your profile is Moonlighting or Higher Vibes or anybody else, I think all of those, as long as those sources stay within the context of the user, will still have the value. Whether technology is decentralized doesn't make the sources not useful.
Yeah. Oh, but what for the user, the benefit, what is it that they can control their own data, or what does the user get out of that being integrated with blockchain?
I think users get a lot, actually. The three problems which it will solve. Number one is trust. So by having a decentralized profile, which is contributed to by multiple platforms and have been sitting on, and there is a history of this profile, the auditability of this profile, which is sitting on the chain, that gives a lot of trust to the profile. And now when the employers look at it, everybody doesn't need to go back and verify the same things which have been verified in the past. And there is not only the immediate value which the employers and the users will see. I think it will bring a lot of efficiency from operations point of view, from cost point of view, that you don't have to keep doing the same thing. So right now, if you have to go and look at education qualification, right? So there are very few companies out there. There are some entities out there which control this data today, and I'll tell you, like some of their contracts, some of their agreements they write when they share this data is to the point where they don't want to let it go out. They want to share this data with somebody who's paying for that instance, and they don't want even that user to use it again. So without going into the detail there, I think there is a lot of operational and cost efficiencies we can have with this new decentralized system where there is no one entity, whether it is Moonlighting or Block.One or anybody who can control this data. So now users can take this data and have this immediately builds the trust. It immediately builds the usage of the data because it has the operational and cost efficiency associated with using the data. It also gives the user now, it opens the freelance economy to you across the world. You're not now, like Moonlighting right now is available only in United States and Canada, in North America. So eventually we want to go international. We already have on the roadmap where we want to go next, right? So with the decentralized system, international freelance economy will open up for these users, right? Not only from a Moonlighting gateway point of view, but from other marketplaces as well. It will also help them, the point you touched upon earlier called fragmentation, right? You said like it's so fragmented today. I was talking to somebody who is very senior, a very vetted blockchain developer, right? A great guy. He was banned from Upwork.
Oh, wow.
So like why, right? Because he didn't follow certain rules which they put in place, right? Now whatever reputation of years of work he did in Upwork, that's stayed there, right? Now there should be this value of having this decentralized data which is available on public blockchain, the validity of which is available on public blockchains. Users should be able to take it and port it to wherever they want. So I think there is a huge so for any new, when you talk about any new system to be put in place, there have to be drivers, there have to be people who have to run that system, or at least even if the community is running it, eventually maybe Moonlighting will create this system and can step out as just one of the contributors to the system, right? Don't need to be the one who is driving it. But I think there are a few years where we have to take it to that level and eventually maybe take a step back and become one of those contributors to the overall system.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting big picture thought, because there's this whole infrastructure that's basically built around verifying people's ability or credibility with work. I mean, from, if I want my college transcript, it costs me $60 to get the piece of paper in the mail. Upwork is to some extent, in your friend's case, holding that information for themselves. There's probably an unlimited amount of these places that hold your personal verifying identity kind of hostage so that they can get paid for it. So yeah, that is a cool big picture idea of you being able to globally or internationally verify your ability to work and add value and take that with you. And that is a killer.
And again, I think it's our one thing which we follow here in Moonlighting is you do the right by the users, you do the right by the community you are creating this platform for. It will automatically take care of you, because there has to be facilitators who have the right intentions to take this forward, and Moonlighting will play that role.
Do you guys have a token or a need for a token, or what's that situation look like?
I think we definitely have a need for the token. We tried to, we thought of doing ICO back in, kind of, tested the waters a little bit with, and share the ideas with few people. We worked with great, companies like Cooley to help us with the legal side of things. And, things were not, the regulations and the whole regulatory environment is not to the point where we felt comfortable doing it. And I'll tell you is like, there is, I think we took a step back and said, okay, let's build the platform instead of first doing ICO and raising money through tokens. Let's first build the product and then eventually get the utility of the token within the platform rather than starting the other way around. So even if that would have helped us financially to move it faster and scale it better and spend more money into the platform itself, but I think we will still revisit that token thing maybe another next year or so, and see if we build enough audience around this and create a utility for this. So we have our plan after the first MVP of profile management system is also to build a rewards and loyalty system within Moonlighting, which will we might use might at that point do Moonbits as a token. That's our token name, so everybody knows. It will be out there someday, but let's say if we don't do Moonbits, then we might integrate with some partner tokens and be able to fuel our rewards engine using the token. So there is a lot to be seen there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ended up, so instead of the ICO market, obviously ended up being what it was, but you got EOS VC money. So you partnered with one of the EOS VCs, is that right?
That is right. So yeah, that's very exciting. That's definitely big thanks to Block.One, EOS VC, and one of their funds, FinLab out of Germany, has led our Series A last month. We kind of announced that we have a $5 million Series A going on, still in progress, and they have led a big part of it already. So that happened last month in April.
Yeah, from the company end, it seems like raising money through a VC has a lot of benefits over like an ICO, whereas you're probably getting a lot of support from EOS Block.One just in general, a lot of tech support and things like that. Is that the case? What's the support look like from the VCs?
Definitely. First, yeah, getting VC money is definitely good for any startup, right? But I'll tell you, for us, getting money from EOS VC is even more exciting because before we went to EOS VC and got contacted for these reasons, we were looking at EOS back in 2017. Right, we started our just taking a little step back with the journey there. We started looking at decentralization, and first POC we came up with was using Ethereum. We created a dApp. We created our own wallet. We did this Moonbit token integration into our platform. The whole scalability, transaction processing, transaction cost, and usability. Oh my God, those three things. We could not convince even ourselves to take it out to our users. So at that point, we were disappointed, but at the same time, this light shows up. We started seeing Dan's videos and his vision about EOS. People used to call it Ethereum on steroids. That is what caught my eye first time. Ethereum on steroids. I want Ethereum on steroids. And then looked at EOS and create promises, and everything was looking so good. We followed it for about a year before we committed to it and said that this is the protocol we want to build upon. Now, since we were so committed to it already, now having funding from EOS VC is like cherry on the top, right? Like you're getting funding from a VC who is passionate about the technology which you are passionate about. That's the great I think synergy there which we are enjoying. Now we are based out of Richmond, Virginia, and as you all know, Block.One is out of Blacksburg, Virginia, which is only 3 hours drive. So since April, I have been fortunate enough to actually go drive up there and spend time with Block.One team, with Greg and Dan and Bart and their other engineers. So it's been a great experience so far. So those they're not very involved. Block.One engineers, Block.One is not involved too much into EOS VC decisions, as I understand, but they are also looking at people, community drivers like us, and say that yes, they want to see us successful and provide any support they can to make sure we are moving in the right direction. So we are already engaged with the dev relations team on the Block.One side out of Hong Kong, and we are engaged with the people in Blacksburg. So there has been great support so far, and I'm sure it will get better from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to be, I mean, you're near Virginia Tech too. Hopefully they start pumping out some great engineers in the next few years as well. So,
oh, definitely. So I was recently, like literally last week, it was May 8th, I think, May 8th or May 9th. I was there judging a competition, which was Virginia Tech students have built projects on EOSIO blockchain.
really?
And I was very impressed to see the type of projects they have built, the real life problems they were trying to solve. Like they're solving payments, they are solving identity, they are solving voting, all these things which you would suddenly see and feel that those are like the perfect use cases for the blockchain. So there were students who have done a great job. There were this project, this whole, I think, hackathon, or I should maybe call it marathon more than, because it was running for like 6 months. And this final stage was on 9th when we judged that. And it was incredible to see that kind of talent and that kind of education actually being delivered by a university in this cutting edge technology. And
wow.
There's a lot of enthusiasm there.
Wow. That is exciting. I mean, that's one of the things that it's been overlooked recently. I mean, when they first were in Blacksburg and were doing the Virginia Tech things, people were hyped about it, but people have forgotten a little bit. But don't sleep on Virginia Tech. We got some really interesting stuff that's going to come out of there. It's going to be. Yeah. I'm really excited about that. You mentioned briefly newspapers and classifieds. Is there newspapers that are what, pinging your API or something? What's that look like?
Yeah. So 3 of the biggest news media companies in the United States, right? Gannett, McClatchy, and Tronc. All 3 of them are strategic investors. They invested in earlier rounds of Moonlighting. So there is a lot of collaboration which happens between us and them. One of that is where we syndicate our data. We syndicate our service providers' data as form of ads to their websites. And now we get those ad impressions, we get those placements based on our partnerships. And so we have built this ad serving engine ourselves in-house, which is basically nothing but a content delivery network, which is integrated by using DFP on the news media side, and DFP is pinging, including a JavaScript snippet on their side to ping this CDN, and CDN is connected to our APIs to pull the fresh data out of our feeds and show fresh data on their side. So there is this whole tech integration we have done with them, and most of that heavy lifting of that integration is done by us. Like we have taken it to a point where it becomes easy for the website, those websites, to just include 3 lines of JavaScript for a placement, saying, you put it where you want to, and rest is taken care by the system we have created, the ad serving engine we have created. So yes, there is we get I think almost 1 million hits every day, and sometime more. I'm talking about like an average number of hits is like about 1 million every day from these news media websites.
Wow. Well, that's bringing back the classified ads to newspapers.
Yeah,
online,
and again, for think about this, like as a freelancer or as a service provider, what do you want? You want to be shown at as many places as you can be. You want business, right? And so even if we are not decentralized at this point, you will see that has been our method of working. We want to share your data and give you as much value, not only within this a platform, within a app, and within a website. We want to give it everywhere. We want to partner on your behalf with all these companies and provide you that in your area. So if you go to LA Times, you will see people who are from Los Angeles area. And if you go to Miami Herald, you will see people who are from Miami area, right? So it's very geo-targeted delivery, but it gives a great traction to our users, our freelancers.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, there's the issue, there's the discrepancy between the amount of people offering to work and the amount of people that need work. And so if you start solving that end of the problem, then you're going to drive a lot of traffic. So yeah, that's fantastic. So we've covered where you've come from, where you are, and a little bit about where you're going. Did you have anything to add? Maybe I guess we've covered a little bit, but 5 years down the road, what Moonlighting might look like, or what you hope it looks like?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of dream about every day, right? I see Moonlighting as this platform which is facilitating this decentralized freelancing ecosystem. What that means is I want Moonlighting to be partnered with, at that point, with tens, if not hundreds, of freelance marketplaces, the gig economy marketplaces, whether they are in a niche segment or they are open like us, right? And like this line between where it is hard for people today to switch between full-time and part-time and gig economy, that should become easy. It should not be that if I want a full-time job, I have to go to one platform, versus if I want a gig economy job, I have to go to another platform, and then I have to, create a different kind of profile and create a different kind of reputation, or manage a different kind of reputation on each of them. I think this all is connected. It is all employment, right? So the whole hiring landscape should become easy. Getting hired should become easy. And the opportunities, sometimes if we are too much focused in one segment, we don't see, as freelancers or as even service providers, we don't see the opportunities elsewhere. So I want to create this ecosystem where you can have this, information to make the right choices. So there is, in my dreamland, there is this decentralized freelance economy, and which is not bound by physical or any segmented boundaries, virtual boundaries. So it is global. People should be able to work, and they should be able to, they should be judged, or they should be paid not because of the place they are in, but rather the skill set they are offering and the quality of work they are doing. It's not that somebody who is sitting in United States is paid more than somebody sitting in some other place. And again, that opens up the boundaries for all of us, and find reasons to cross these boundaries and travel more and do things from wherever we want. So that is the global freelance ecosystem is what I want to see built, or at least not completely maybe by 5 years, but being at a good place in 5 years.
Fantastic. I love that vision. Well, on my end, this is the EOS Podcast, my EOS Podcast friends. It's not just a YouTube show, it's also a podcast, so listen to it on the podcast. We're going to give Ritesh a chance to share his final thoughts here. But I have the Mr. Happy Money Proxy. If you've been listening to this podcast and you've heard all the block producers on here, I vote for the best block producers that represent transparency, empowerment, and building together. Ritesh is a good example of all that. If they were a block producer, I'd be voting for them. So Mr. Happy Money Proxy, if you need someone to responsibly be a steward of your vote, then Mr. Happy Money Proxy is your place. So thanks for listening to the EOS Podcast. And Ritesh, where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts here?
You can find us on moonlighting.com, and you can download Moonlighting app on iOS and Android. So start participating in the platform and contribute to this revolution, I would call it. And we all need to be there together, because we are the freelancers and the service providers who want to be in gig economy. We need to drive this, and with everybody's participation, I'm sure we will take it where we all can be proud of it.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Ritesh. The EOS Podcast is the first podcast in the history of EOS, and it is continuing into the future. So beautiful things coming. Ritesh, absolute pleasure to have you. And thanks for telling us all about Moonlighting. That's the show for today. Farewell, my friends.
Thank you, Brendan. It was great to be there. Thank you.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just